All right, we're back, Mrs. Saga, having some real authentic conversations. A lot of the work that I do, it's all about finding alternative ways to heal the body, the mind, and the spirit. And I wanted to step out of my comfort zone, not only for myself, but also for my listeners. You know, um, for a while, actually, I really wanted to have the following guests come and speak about this area, a niche market, if I can say. Um, Before I introduce our guest, I want to give you a little information about them. So it may get a little spooky tonight, okay, or during the day, or wherever you are in the world listening. Um, so I have here. Um, they're called, referred, known as the Paranormal Seekers. They are researchers. They investigate group based in Durham region, specializing in historic locations and providing afterlife awareness. They investigate residential and commercial properties. The Paranormal Seekers, founded in 2004 by Rachel. Now she has an amazing team. And I really want to jump into the world, into their world, and find out what is it all about. So this is kind of new for me because it's not an area that I'm really well aware of. So just like our listeners, I'm also here listening, being the student, asking the questions, and really having our guest share the insights into this world. And also, they're nonprofit, a nonprofit organization. They love what they do. So, of the team of many, I have two of them here today, Alison and Kaz. I hope I am pronouncing your names correct, ladies. Welcome to Misaga Keeping It Real. Let's have a conversation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you guys get a lot of uh, calls, requests, especially during this time? Now, just to let our guests know, we're recording this on October 22nd. So, is the month of October like a busy time for you, where people think about Halloween, ghosts, and the cemeteries? Like, is this a busy time for you? So, whoever wants to take this on.
Absolutely. We are already booked for next October, fully booked. We do a lot of public investigations where we take multiple groups of people through different locations, typically museums and settlers' villages, where they can participate in their own paranormal investigations. They have the research and the equipment with our guidance and support to reach out and see if anybody wants to talk to them.
Hmm. So let's start right from the basics. Kaz, I guess I can sort of put you on the spot here, or Allison, you're more than welcome to jump in. How does somebody get into this world of, paranormal seeking and, finding out if a property if there's a ghost or, some entity there? Like, how does, like, is this like a childhood I can't wait when I grow up. I want to be, a paranormal seeker. Like, can you, we want to jump into your life and your story and hear the backstory. So whoever wants to take this on, go
Mhm.
for it.
I'll start. I know Alice is probably similar to mine. I grew up in a haunted house, so very cliche.
What?
And it was something that always fascinated me and scared me. So most of my life thus far has been all about ghosts and what are they? Who are they? Why are they? And then one day I happened to find the Paranormal Seekers actually were doing a public event. And so I went to one of their events. And then shortly after that, my son was doing a project and he wanted to do a project on ghosts. And I inquired with the Paranormal Seekers and actually Allison and Rachel, the founder. They were so gracious to come and meet with us. They brought equipment, and my son did this amazing project. And so I started following them and their journeys and their investigations. And all of a sudden, I was bombarded with people saying, "Hey, do you know this group? They're looking to add to their team." So I threw my hat in the ring, never once thinking I would actually get the opportunity to go and do what I watch on TV all the time for real. And by luck, I got an interview and then they asked me back and away we went. And it's amazing. I'm now literally doing the things I see those ghost hunters doing on TV. And sometimes I pinch myself because I'm like, am I really doing this? And I am. And it's amazing. And it's really nice. I can't say that I've got 100% of the answers to the questions I have. Sometimes I find I leave with more questions, but I think that's what this industry is about and should be about, that we're constantly evolving and asking questions and letting things flow. And once we kind of figure one thing out, it evolves into something else. And I am very privileged to be with a team that we're all on the same page and we are really good at evolving and asking the tough questions and doing the work. There's nothing fake about us, that's for sure. So when we're out there, we're really putting in time and we're dedicated. We love this. And it shows in the work that we do, I think. And I think we're all very passionate about finding out exactly what's going on. And thus far, we're still like, I don't know.
Allison, did you want to add anything or your
Uh,
journey?
I did not live in a haunted house. I, however, have seen the invisible people or spirit since 4 is my first memory. So all my life, I tried to figure out why. I was not allowed to speak about it in my home. It was deemed witchcraft and the work of Satan. So we didn't talk about that. But as I got older, I had a family member move up from the States and she had a box, and the box said, basically dead people and ancestors on it. So we started going through the box and this picture came up and I asked her who that man was. And she said, "Oh, you look like you've seen a ghost." And I'm like, "Who is this man?" Because he watches me every day.
Oh,
And it
wow.
turns out he was my great great grandfather on so and so, such and such side. I am the seventh generation with the gift. I have two daughters. They both have the gift as well. One uses it pretty much daily, and the other one just whenever the dead guy that belongs to the house we're in now comes for a visit. Kaz has met him. She'll connect with him and work with him. So my dad passed very suddenly when I was 27. And about 9 years after that, I found an event from the Paranormal Seekers. They were doing a public investigation at the Automotive Museum in Oshawa. So I bought my ticket and I showed up. And that's history. I've been on the team. It'll be 10 years come the spring. So I joined, I met them in 2012, 2013. And when they were recruiting, they asked if I would throw down. And I did. And I've been there ever since. And just like Kaz, that's what we do. We are definitely historical. We base a lot of things on research. That is one of the biggest key components so that we can, confirm we have the right questions to ask. We can share people's stories. We want to keep people alive. When they stop being spoken about after they've passed, they die a second death. So, one of the biggest things we strive to do is take away the stigma of Hollywood. Everything black and shadowy is evil, and bring back the fact that people love their places, their things, and the people that they've left behind. So we connect with them, we engage with them, and we ask them to share with us what they want us to share for others to know. Through the team, one of the biggest things I've done in the 10 years is help families understand what their children are seeing and what's going on, because I don't ever want another child to live with the stigma and the belief that they were bad because they were given divine gifts to help them connect to the other realm. So, in my career, I'm social work and end of life care as well. People that know my gifts recognize that there's a reason I'm in end of life care and I work with the disabled, because I'm able to connect with them on different levels and bridge the gaps between the realms. So both Kaz and I have professions where we do, therapy, healing. Kaz is, she very much is like you, looking at alternative, non-traditional medical ways to heal body, mind, and soul. She has incredible gifts, as do I, that are different but also the same. We will often connect with the same dead people and not know before we go to, our private investigations. And sometimes they're nice to me and mean to Kaz, and sometimes they like Kaz more than me, right? So, just like the living, the dead decide who they want to speak with and how they want to go about sharing the information they choose to share.
Thanks, Alison. There are so many questions that are running through my mind, and I don't know where to start off. Like, we can be here for the next like 10 hours, and probably just like a quarter of the questions can be answered. So much information that you two ladies have shared. I guess the one that I want to jump on, Alison, you had mentioned, kids, they're very uh, connected, and they have a lot of special gifts. And when kids go through the school system and they're sort of conditioned, all those abilities are sort of gone as they age and they go through the school system. Just from your experience, can you sort of talk about this, like, divine, I don't know if it's a divine connection. Like, I'm Hindu, and in our culture, in our belief, we believe that children are very, like, they're very spiritual, they're still connected with the afterlife, with God, and they have these abilities. But once they go through, the system here, all those abilities are sort of gone, almost they sort of disappear. And if I can just add on a little bit more, a lot of the guests that I have come on, a lot of their psychic abilities, when they were young, they never understood what they knew they had the gift, but they didn't know how to work with it, so they shut it down. And then it's only years later that they start to do the healing work, and they realize they have these special gifts. Thoughts, comments, Allison, anything you want to sort of say about that? Or
Um, so I I had a dad who always, and a grandfather who came from that maternal side where the gift comes. It was his sister that put everything together. And they used to make these statements: shine your light and shine it bright, and the right people will come and find you. So, my biggest outlet to be able to connect with them, because I realized, nobody talked about them, nobody saw them, but I did. And they were trying to communicate with me. So, I used Barbies. Like, I played with Barbies until I was probably 14, because I could talk to them and have them talk back and act out. And it wasn't weird or suspicious. So, that was my way of coping. And then when my great aunt, so everybody called her crazy Aunt Hazel, and I always thought it's because she had like big long nails and makeup and wore like moo and bright colored, outfits. But it was because of her gifts. So when she put it together, she basically said the same thing to me: shine your light, shine it bright. Don't talk about it because people will think you're crazy, but your gifts are given to you to provide hope, healing, and peace. And so I went with that and continued to develop them quietly. My mom still, she knows I'm on a team. That's about it. She won't talk about it. She's still a non believer, very religious. So it's something that I just carved out with guidance, and then, fell into like-minded individuals, right? You run into, oh, you have the gift. Oh, I do. Do you have the gift? Oh, yes, I do. And, it goes from there. So then I understood, right? Shine it light, shine the light, shine it bright, and they'll find you. So that's kind of where we're at. And now we're, the top-notch weirdos that go around um, talking to dead people and trying to figure out what it is they want, need, or, are looking to share, to bring that hope and healing and peace to others.
yeah, uh, totally makes sense. And Kaz, growing up, I think, I don't know if it was you, Allison or Kaz, there's this taboo. We come from a religious family and we can't talk about this stuff. But you had mentioned that you grew up in a haunted house. So was that already like an open door where it's like you can talk about this stuff, and and then that was an easy welcoming to the work that you do today?
Um, I know for me, so I was born and raised in England, and there's not such a big stigma in England about death and um, things like that as there seems to be in Canada. It's shifted a little,
Mhm.
but in England, it was a lot more like we used to go to the cemetery all the time, and there were lots of cemeteries around. So it was never, death was just sort of accepted. Um, we would joke about the dead man in our house because it was very frequent that he would make himself known. And I think probably on my parents' part, they were trying to keep it happy, you know, don't scare the kids type thing because, we'd hear this man walking around the house and walking up and down the stairs, and occasionally you might catch a glimpse of him, and he liked to play with the light switches and turn the lights on and off. So my parents just knew if they just kind of made fun of it, it would just be like, oh, there's Wolf again being silly. So for me, it was never the scary thing. I actually was quite protective. I felt safe that he's there watching out. Um, so it was never something taboo. Even when people would come over, it would be kind of a joke. I know my sister had friends one day, and a chair in my sister's room fell over for no reason. So clearly, there's something paranormal there. And we all laughed and was like, oh, it's the ghost. And one of her friends took off out of the house so fast and wouldn't come back. But for us, it was just normal. So as Allison was saying, I think when it's made sort of incorporated into your life, whether people really believe it or not, as long as it's not hushed and, no one talks about it, that's always a good thing. People might not understand it, and might be a little scared, but there was nothing that I can think of where people were like, no, don't talk about that. And my grandmother for sure was a witch, like in all the good ways. I mean, she knew how to cure us with all kinds of herbs. She was probably, she's rolling in her grave now being called witch just because of the stigma to it, but she really was. And I love the fact that she taught me how to heal from nature and how to connect with nature. And I get my energy healing from her 100%. I feel her hand sometimes when I'm healing. So I'm very fortunate I grew up in a family that embraced that really were okay with things like that. We weren't overly religious, so maybe that's why as well. But I notice here in Canada, it's changed a lot, but it's certainly a little more taboo. Even just the cemetery going, I've noticed people don't like to go so much to cemeteries unless they're weirdos like us. But most people kind of steer clear of it unless they have to go. But I love going to them.
Yeah. No, I absolutely hear you. I remember my friends and I, like, years ago, like, in high school, for fun, like on a Halloween's Eve, we would get in the car, go to a cemetery. Like, it was a thing to do. Like, I don't know. It was just like, let's get scared. What's going to happen? So we did all that fun stuff, and I don't know who wants to take this one on, and we're gonna get to all the work that you ladies do as well. The Tesla cars, they can sense, and they have cameras everywhere, and there's these all these videos that are coming out where the actual car is going next to a cemetery, and because their cameras, they not only pick up other cars, traffic lights, obstacles, they actually pick up images of people in the cemetery. Have you guys heard of that? And like, is it real? Any stories about that, or like any? Yeah, just want to throw that out there.
I'm
Hilariously enough, 2 nights ago, one of my clients sent me one of those Instagram videos of someone in a Tesla driving around. They're like,
Yeah.
"Did you see this?" I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know much about the technology in Teslas, so I can't say if it's really picking up, if it's gimmicky, because now people are rushing out to kind of at least test drive ones. I don't know. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm a big believer that there are lots of spirits roaming around in cemeteries, but it's certainly interesting. I'd maybe rent a Tesla just to go check it out.
Let's do it. And
Oh,
I'm a skeptic when it comes to these things because when you're not there, you don't know. Like if I had a dime for every time someone said, "Oh my gosh, do you think Teresa Caputo, the Long Island medium, is real?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not there. I know that I filmed for the Marilyn Dennis show twice, and I know that we filmed for 6 hours, and it's maybe a 20-minute clip. But I don't know, so I'm not going to say yes or I'm not going to say no. I agree with Kaz. So I work across from one of the biggest cemeteries in Oshawa. And so I walk there all year long. They have the best snow control ever if you're looking for exercise. And I play a game. Let's find the dead person today. So I ask somebody to come forward and I walk all through and see if I can find their grave. No, there's not 1,000 of
what?
them
Are
coming
you
to me.
serious?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, my colleagues think it's hilarious. But yeah, and oddly enough, I found a family that belongs to a family that I fell into through an urgent response or crisis situation. So one day we were talking about their last name and she said, "Oh, I was just there visiting, my great grandmother and my great grandfather. And this is their name." I'm like, "I know exactly where their grave is. It's here, 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 and here." And I wondered if they belong to you, right? And she was like, "Oh my gosh, you really are like you have the gift." But you know, I like Kaz's idea. I think we should rent a Tesla and go to some of the
Yeah.
Port Union and Salem, the popular cemeteries here, even some of the little ones, and see what we catch. Right? Like
Mhm.
there's a situation I had in one of our pioneer homes where there is a room on the lower floor where Grandma stayed, and Grandma and I connected right away the very first time we were there in 2016. And as I was leaving the home, I heard like turn around and take my picture. So I turned around and we have a rule 3 to 5 pictures without moving. And I snapped 5 pictures and I saw the most beautiful white glowing older woman that I've ever seen in my life. And I caught a perfect white glowing orb where you can see the full profile of her face, the side profile of her face. So for me, cameras can catch those things, and they can present in all different ways. So, you don't know what you don't know until it happens to you. But there are a lot of apps out there that are gimmicky. I, had this man freaking out that he was mapping something. I'm like, that's a table. Like, that's not a dead person. Oh no, it's not when I move. And no, that's the table, right? So it's one of those things that who are we to say it's real or not real, right? All we can do is hope that there is some truth in it, and have those experiences ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Just listening, having this conversation, both of you ladies are just normal people. Like, sometimes, you watch these videos and they're very like, oh, so serious and like, it's I don't know, and just when like the first couple of minutes, I'm like, they're laughing, they're having fun. I'm like, are they really paranormal seekers? Like they seem normal people. Like it's so you know. So follow up on that is, so what are some of the misconceptions of like paranormal? However you want to take that, like the seeker or the work that you guys do, the myths, or yeah, let's start from there.
I think humor
Well,
is just our thing, eh, Kaz? Like
I love it.
um,
absolutely.
You can't be serious about this. I mean, there are
Yeah.
times, like I was texting or reading a message once, and, somebody decided to shut the door to get my attention in my face, right? So if I hadn't looked up at the very last minute, I would have had a screen door in my face. We laugh about that, right? When they
Mhm.
dead people can get cheeky, they can joke along with us, they can jab us. Often when nothing's happening, we'll break out into song or dance or be silly, and that's when things start to happen. Life is too
Mhm.
serious, the world is very heavy, so when we get together to do what we love, we just make it like it's a great night out with friends. Whatever happens
Mhm.
happens.
And a lot of those shows that you see on TV or YouTube, they require likes and views to stay funded and on air. And in all honesty, ghost hunting can be quite boring. There's times we've sat around for hours with not much happening, which doesn't make for good TV. So they have to embellish, they have to be over the top. They're competing now. There's a lot of ghost shows out there. Um, so everyone's trying to, one up each other and get the views and get the likes, which is great. So I find they have to be a little more overly dramatic. It gets really intense. It's also, you know, 3 days of filming just to get that 30 minutes. So it looks like everything's happening at once, but it's really not. We are just such a well rounded group that we can sit around for hours with nothing to do and enjoy each other's company. we we just enjoy talking, and as Allison was saying, spirits have their own personality, and sometimes they come through really strong, other times they don't want anything to do with us and we respect that. Sometimes they call us out, um and they say things that make us a little embarrassed or laugh our faces off. And so that's just part of it. We're not there to try and be anything other than the researchers that we are and document our findings. And sometimes that is not much happened. We're not trying to prove ghosts are there every single time. We do the research. As Allison was saying, it's really important to us as a group that we are recording the history, the facts, that we're not trying to embellish or, sometimes places get blown out of proportion, again, sensationalized for likes. We want the history known, and we really just want people to know the real truth to what's going on. And I find the spirits really react better to that because we have names, we have information. The amount of times we said, "Oh, hi, Mr. So and so, is that your daughter?" We can hear, and imagine for 100 years no one said your name, no one's mentioned, your child. All of a sudden we're coming there with this information, and I find they really open up to us. Some
We're
don't. Some
authentic.
tell us to, bad words, and then they disappear. It's
Yeah,
fine too.
go bleep yourself a couple times here and there.
Yes, and that's okay. Not every
But it's
spirit is a happy
authenticity.
spirit.
That's, I think, what our team is. So we're authentic, we're real, we definitely are in it for our love of
Mhm.
history, proving that there is something out there, someone out there, and giving people hope. Like, often we go to retirement communities, and I will never forget, Rachel and I went together to this one way out, far, far away, and it was like a retirement home, so people 80s and above, last place they're going to stay if they're fortunate before they pass. And this one man sitting on his walker is just like, come here, come here, come here. So I went over before the presentation, and he was like, let me show you these pictures. My daughter went to Ireland, and we had this great chat. And he's like, so today I can't wait for you to tell me how to be a ghost. And I was like, pardon me. And he was like, yeah, like that's what you're here today, right? To teach us how we can haunt people, because none of us are getting out of here alive. And I was like, oh, no, that's not what we're here for, but you might pick up a few tips. Like it was just that's where his thoughts were, right? Like I'm going to go talk to these people and find out how I can go haunt my people lovingly. So he was a firm believer that that's why we were there that day. It was like a seminar on how to be a ghost when you die, because again, age of proximity to death is a social work, thing, a phenomenon that we talk about. The older we get, we realize there's more good days behind us than in front of us. And I think now more than ever, people really want to know, like, is there something there? Do I have something to look forward to? How do you do that? So that was one of my most endearing moments where I had to remain professional, and I just wanted to like burst out and laugh in his face so hard because it took me off guard, right? I've done hundreds of presentations in my years with the team, and he was the first ever who thought like we were going to teach him how to be a ghost. So,
Oh man, that's yeah. Wow, I can just imagine like just your expression. You're like, it's like, no, but man, but what a great question he had though. Like, I mean, yeah. Uh, is that something that you guys ever thought about though, Allison? Like maybe, how, like, if when we sort of pass over, go on the other side, how we can communicate
I think
to our
we
loved
kind of
ones?
cover it in our presentation somewhat. I have a haunt list. They all know who's on it. My girls know I'm going to tuck them in and find their keys instead of hide their keys and pull the blankets off. But
Did you say a haunt list?
yeah, hot list. Absolutely. And see, people hear haunt and they think it's negative.
That's right.
Absolutely
Yeah.
not, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, so it's one of those things that I don't know how to guide people to tell them that they can communicate, but we give them hope and we share our experiences. And it provides, again, that hope, that healing, that thought that maybe there is something. And often when Rachel and I have been with older people, we joke like whenever, they're like, well, whenever the time comes, I'm going to find you. And we're like, absolutely, like, come on through. Right. So, um, I think I don't know, Kaz, it's like a subtle way of giving people that hope and that belief that there is something out there after we leave this realm.
Yeah. Yeah. Kaz, you sort of were mentioning about how YouTube and Instagram sometimes they sensationalize a story so they can get the likes and whatnot. I want to just gear to this side. Then we're going to get back to the work that you ladies and your team does to help the community here. Movies. There's a lot of horror movies that do come out, and you know there's been certain movies where they actually bring like deep like negative energies to the movie set, and
Mhm.
there is a presence of negative entities. And there was one movie, I don't remember the name of the movie. I was listening to a podcast, and even he had said, and the guest that he had on was a paranormal seeker, sort of in the same arena that you're in, but he was from India. And the host had said, when I was watching that movie, it was like one of those exorcist movies in the last 10 years or so, that there was chanting the mantras of these dark energy, and you and the audience is absorbing all these negative mantras. Is there any truth to that, like those attachments, then, because we're welcoming it, aren't we, Kaz? Any?
So I'm sort of in the belief that if you believe it, then yes, absolutely. So if you're going in with the mindset, it's kind of like when people come to our public events and they're like, oh, I don't want something to attach itself to me. I'm like, well, if you're inviting it, if you're thinking it and you believe that that's what's going to happen, then maybe. I don't really believe there's demons or demonic entities or anything along those lines. So I think these movies um, are really playing on that because it's fear based and everyone, that's what sells. It's a really great thing that Hollywood does. Um, and it's just creepy and eerie, and people want to go for an hour and be scared, and then they can leave. I don't know that it's necessarily truly opening something up. Again, if you're letting it play in your mind, then maybe you'll believe that that's happened. Um, I think if they're basing stuff off of a true story, it could play heavy on someone's mind for sure. But I don't really think that they're summoning stuff for real. That if someone goes and watches, say, like a Conjuring movie, and they're doing a summoning in the movie, or they're doing chants, that it's literally opening something and bringing it. I think people just believe what they want to believe, and then if they feel haunted afterwards, so be it. But I just don't think that that's the case. I think we bring about our own energies, if you like. So if you're in that sort of negative mind space, then that's what you'll always see. Um, and if you're in a more positive one, it's kind of like hexes. I always say a hex will work if you believe it. If you don't, it won't. So, same thing. If you're watching the movies and you're like, oh no, they've summoned something and it followed me home from the movie theater, then
Right.
maybe.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And just a follow up on that, Allison, and then Kaz, you can answer as well too. Growing up, has there ever been a movie though where either of you were like, "Whoa, this was scary"? Like even though this is the work that you do, just going back in time, has there ever been a movie where you're like, "Whoa"? Like there was something, whoo, little like, ooh, the little shivers or anything like that? Anything?
For me, I would have to say the original Poltergeist. As a child, I remember after seeing that movie being very scared of a static TV because I knew I could see dead people or invisible people. I didn't know they were dead until I was older. I was maybe 5 when that movie came out, or 6. So yeah, like like I didn't want to be in a room with a static TV like that because I didn't know, right? So when you're that young, you don't understand like fantasy and reality, right? Like you think the Care Bears are real as your parents are.
You
So
mean they're
for
not
me,
real?
no,
I,
sorry, Benny, they're not. Shoot, I damaged somebody else.
Yes.
oh man.
So for me, that was the one. Now, as an adult, oh, we lost Kaz.
No, she'll join us.
All right. Oh, she went offline. As an adult, no. I just went to see the new Conjuring movie. I'm the mom that takes all the teenagers to the spooky movies because no other moms do, or the haunt at Canada's Wonderland. And I was so excited after seeing that Conjuring. I thought, oh, whatever, it's going to be, a great night with 4 little girls, well, 13-year-old girls. But I came home and I started doing my research on like, Lorraine Warren and the Warrens, Ed, because they were like the first real, ghost hunters or investigators, but they focused strictly on the demonic, scary attachment type things. But I watched the movie, it was great, whatever, based in true story. But what I found so, like, just so fascinating at the end was they had all of this original footage of them in action doing their work at the home that had been focused in this movie. And I just thought, what a cool way to bring, an exaggerated horror movie back to reality. And they were doing those things and it held true to them. Many of the, things that we do now have come about because of them. So yeah, that Poltergeist for me was the one, right? That I remember sort of being like, oh gosh, as a
Got
child.
it. Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. Kaz, what about you? Was there anything for you growing up, or
Um, I suppose the very first original Ghostbusters, one of the first scenes where they're in the library, where the woman is in the library, because remember, this is like early 80s ish, I guess mid 80s. And there's we don't have CGI. So this is the first of its kind where you've got this realistic, what we would say is a ghost. She looked very real, and then she turns horrible and scary. If we watch it now, we'd be like, what on earth? But back then, it was very scary. Um, Other than that, there was a one Halloween. I remember in England they released, it was on TV, it was a documentary. And I do air quotes there because it wasn't really, but back then we thought it was. And it was of these young girls. A family had reported that they had a haunting, and so they were doing home video, which was kind of the first of its kind like that. And the things they were reporting, stuff being thrown, a dark shadow, it was actually so scary it got banned from TV at the time. And there were a lot of complaints to the TV channel. Like it created a massive hysteria. I haven't been able to find the documentary, so I don't know whatever happened to it, but I remember I couldn't watch it all. And then I had to sleep with my parents.
Yeah.
It was terrifying. And I remember thinking, I'm that girl in a house with the ghost. Now, the ghost in my house never did things like that. He was never, and again, it was all sensationalized, of course, but it makes you think like, what happens if one day he decides to do those things? Could he do those things? Which thankfully he didn't, but it definitely, it shocked a nation, I think. And that's still, I would love to find it. Probably
What was
now
the
it's
name? What was the name,
be
Kaz?
scary.
It was called Scary?
Pardon?
What was the name of this
Pardon?
documentary? What was the
I
name of the
don't
documentary?
know. I don't know what it was. And this would have been probably late 80s that it came out. I honestly don't remember what it was called. I'll have to try and find it one day. I remember searching for it not too long ago because I think I was telling Rachel about it because it got banned. So I don't know if it just got completely taken off. You can find anything now on the internet, so I'm sure if
Yeah,
I looked hard enough, I could find it. But
yeah.
that I think terrified me, but also fascinated me at the same time.
Got it. Got it. Terrifying and fascinating. What a great segue to sort of move into the present work that we do. So we got to sort of, hear some of your backgrounds and, this great sense of humor that it comes with. So the works that you ladies do in your team, how does the process start? So somebody calls you and says, "Hey, I think there's a ghost in my house," and you're like, "Okay, great, we're coming over." And you bring the whole team over, and the machineries, the tools, the technology. How does that whole process work for the team? Is it like many members go at once, and one specializes in one area, and another one specializes in another area? Then you share, you sit and wait. So, can you just take us through that whole process from beginning to end? That whole process, please.
There's very few private residences we go to. I'm
Oh,
just
okay.
going to put that out there.
Yeah.
Often we are either approached by museums and locations, and or Rachel sends out a barrage of emails, who we are, what we do, would you be interested in us coming? So some are cold calls, some are direct calls. But yes, in my 10 years with the team, we've only done one, two, three houses.
Got it. And a lot of it is more commercial or museum based, you said? Is that correct?
Historic, yeah.
Oh, historical. Okay, got it. And how does that
It
whole process work then? Like, either they contact you or you sort of render your services. Can you take us through that whole chain of events? Like, is it one day? Is it like on some of these YouTubes? It's like 2, 3 nights, and they stay and they sort of, it's like you think as you're watching it, it's like a couple of days. Sometimes it's just done one day. Is it during the day, night? If you could sort of expand on that, that'd be great.
Most of our investigations are done at night simply because a lot of these museums are open during the day or locations are open during the day. How it works is basically Rachel connects with the team, says, hey, these dates are available. This is like the area where it is. What do you think? If, three or four of us out of the 8 members are able to go, then we book it. And then the research starts. So Rachel and Ryan, another member, do a lot of research for us. There are a few other members that help with the research as well. I try not to do the research because when you
When
have
you say
intuitive,
research, sorry to cut you off. What is research?
the entire history from where the land started, who sold it to who, and then who married who, all of the children, and then all of the children, who they married, all of their children, birth dates, death dates, usually, if she can find it, cause of death. So, right from the very beginning, one of the 3 homes we did was alleged to be one of the original settlers' homes out west of here. And it absolutely was a house that you could tell was built in the late 1700s, early 1800s.
Wow.
So Rachel had the entire history right up to the current family that reached out to us. And just to give you an idea, they were 2 very prominent police officers in their community. They knew what dead bodies smelt like. They have been to all sorts of horrific scenes. And it was their little one who kept telling them that there were babies coming out of her closet and that the babies looked funny, but they were babies. So she was just 2. That's all she could communicate. So after we did the research and, Rachel checked into it, we decided to go as a team. And, we did discover that there were some things that she was seeing that were not good. So a former member then and I and another member tried very hard to close that portal. Um, it closed for a while. We've lost track with the family, but that's how we roll. Like it literally, if there's something to find. So we have had museum curators say to Rachel, you have better research than we do. Can we have a copy of that?
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
And then Kaz and I and Jay is another sensitive, as he refers to himself. We get the location or we carpool together. We show up. We're not part of the research because that's fake, right? Like I'm going to channel the woman that lives here. Well, I already know all the information, right? So I try very hard to stay out of all of that until the night of. And then when I get a name or a William I'm like, is there a William? And then I go through the research, right? Um, so that's sort of how it all comes together. But I don't know, Kaz, you have a different view. Like how would you describe our process?
So very similar to exactly how you said. And then we usually have a sort of tentative game plan, but it will change as soon as we get there in most cases. So the game plan might be this is a 3 level building. We'll go in, do maybe a walk around to get the lay of the land, and then start setting up equipment. But sometimes we get there and we don't even have time to do a lay of the land, and spirits are, making themselves known, and we're doing everything we can to get equipment ready and going. So it does have to be on an individual basis. We have most of the bells and whistles you see on those um, YouTube shows and the TV shows. So we have an SLS camera, REM pods, EMF detectors, funny gadgets we find around ourselves. And so then it just becomes a case of let's just see how it flows. Sometimes if a place has been um there's a lot of people that have been there and we kind of generally know, well, maybe the bedroom needs to be a little more investigated because that's where the death happened or something. Maybe we'll focus in there, but again, I have to pride Rachel on her research because a lot of things you see and hear, again, have been sensationalized. And what you might have heard might have been folklore or, stories passed down that aren't really true. So if you go in with this misconception and you've done no research, you're going to end up probably wasting your time. So we go in and we usually do a bit of a sweep of a place. We really encourage either a curator, a manager, whoever to stay with us we like to get a tour done. Usually, Allison and I, and Jay, if he's there, hang back because, again, as Allison was saying, we don't like to hear the information. I want the building to speak for itself. I want the energy to come through. And as Allison was saying, if I know a death happened on the staircase and I feel something and pick something up on the staircase, is it then my own or is it because I already know something? So we usually hang back and start talking already. I think for Allison and I, we usually get stuff before we've even got to the place. And it's usually very similar. So we kind of bounce ideas off each other like, well, did you pick up on that lady or are you feeling that man? And then we just go with it. And we have such a great team. There's no competitiveness. There's no one trying to be better than anyone else. No one, oh, well, I'm this, so I get to go here. We all have really great strengths. And so no matter if we're in the full team or there's only three of us, we do, I think, a really great job of being as thorough as we can in the time that we're allotted. Sometimes we only get 4 hours in a place, other times we're given free reign. And especially if things start to happen, the people who have stayed with us are like, oh, I know we said you could only be here till 10, but we can keep going. So it kind of is a very individualized thing because once we get in there and get started, we don't know where it's going to take us. And again, we've been to places, not a lot has happened. And we're like, well, we have a place till 10, but we may as well pack up. And we also honor, we've had times where we could have stayed a lot longer, but Spirit has told us very, very loudly, please leave, we're done. And we always honor. And so we pack up and leave, just like they ask.
Yeah, it's like that respect. It's like, okay, like this is all the time that we've been allotted to, and we respect that,
Yeah.
and it's time for us to leave. Um, Allison, has does anything surprise you anymore? You said that you've been with the whole team about 10 years, and up to now you're still doing the good work. Does anything surprise you anymore when you go out? Has it become like a routine? You're like, okay, 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 or is there things that still like that growth mindset? You're like, oh, wait a second, I didn't think about this, or let's take a look at this angle. Or this spirit came in, or something.
Um, yeah, like surprise. Like for instance, we were doing a public event last weekend and I should have felt the dead guy walking up on me, but I didn't, and all of a sudden he just whips my braid in the air and like everybody saw my braid get whipped and I was like, oh, please don't do that, right? So it's those little things like that. We have had some archives. There was a home, we did the Hillary House, and there is pieces of a skull that someone brought back and put together. That was like, what for me? I think Cass is a little bit like, what? We did a home in Dresden, Ontario. If you've seen the show on HGTV, it's So We Bought a Funeral Home. The family there had secured all sorts of original things from embalming things. So, like, there was hair and blood on them still, and like freakishly, weirdly cool. Not something I would ever expect to see. They had a coffin that was a bar that went up the 3 floors, up and down. So, things like that surprise me. Often other things where it's like information comes through or something happens where it's like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, or we weren't anticipating that. Sometimes they share like how they died, so we get the pain or the vision, or those they still take me off guard this many years later. So and those are kind of like the surprise things. And also sometimes like staff or volunteers that are there share things that you're shocked about, because you're thinking, really, like, we didn't have that experience, or I couldn't have imagined that here. So I think for me, I just go open minded. As you touched on, Bennu, we are all about respect. Can you tell us your name, please? Thank you so much. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you doing this with us. We always walk in and say we are, I knock on the door before I ever go in. I say, my name is Alison. I'm here with the Paranormal Seekers. None of the equipment we have, like, we're not here to send you away. None of the equipment we have will hurt you, harm you in any way. We're just here to talk, find out your story, and let the world know you're here. And I think, our team, and that's something that Rachel and I have worked on for so long, is that, if you walk into my home with respect, I'll give you respect. If you walk into my home without respect, then you're not getting respect either. So you get what you give, and you give what you get. So that's one of the big things I think for our team is we work so hard to respect and appreciate the opportunity to speak to the spirits that are there and be in their home location area. So I think that's sort of just key for us.
Hmm.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
The lights went out for some reason in my room. I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. So my screen is dark. So just to our listeners, we're recording this and we can see each other. But when it's released, it's audio only. And the lights just went off. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird. But it seems like every time like I put my heater into the outlet, there's probably too much power coming through and then the lights turn off. But as long as you guys can hear me, you can
Mm-hmm.
probably see my shiny forehead. Um, as you were just speaking, Allison, and for our listeners who are listening, how do you make sure, or even Kaz, that you ground yourself and protect yourself as well too? Like, is there like a ritual that you guys do before you attend these ceremonies, or not ceremonies, but these going to the people's houses or historical places? Do you guys ground yourself, or when you guys go back home, is there a quick ritual that you guys do just to make sure everything's nice and clean?
I think we get asked this a lot, especially when we do public events. People are
Yeah.
always wanting to know, how do they leave without ghosts following them home? There's not one thing that we do. We certainly don't do it as a team. Individually, sometimes people do things. I've been an energy healer for over 13 years now, so I have my own ways of signaling when I'm closing down and I'm done. Um, and I've never really had an issue. Again, I think because we're not going and instigating and stirring things up, doesn't mean that spirits don't take a liking and maybe want to come hang out a little afterwards once in a while, but I've never left a place that I have felt um I should have done something different. I do have sage that I burn often.
Mm,
Um and for me it's more of an intent, so I'm intentionally shutting things down when I leave. So there is no bringing anything with me. I'm shutting down my connection to that energy. That's how I do it. Again, everyone does things differently. Allison, I know you probably have your own things that you do.
yes, Allison.
So yeah, so I have like my mantra that I say, that I ground, surround, and protect myself. I also wear a lot of different crystal bracelets. Some have been gifted to me, some have, I've walked into a store and I'm like, I need that. So I use that. Like Kaz, I work really hard to allow myself to be open while on location, but be closed as I'm leaving. So, I have had one attachment. It was not good. I deserved it. Is something overcame me. I became very like aggressive. Oh, if you're so tough, why don't you go and throw a book for us? So I basically was not kind to this person. And earlier that night, again, our member Jay had been overwrought with anger, and he looked at me and said, I don't know why, but I want to punch your face out. So, that came home with me. Unfortunately, it was not good. I had to work really hard with other gifted people in different realms to get rid of that. And then I managed to lay that to peace. As far as my understanding is now from the library, that activity of that really negative man is no longer there. Books still get moved and things still get, misplaced, but people don't feel that terrible, awful, unnerving, I don't want to be in this back room feeling anymore. But I can track that back to I egged them on. And they were not happy about that. I disrespected them. They were not a good person in life, so they were not a good person in death, but like I brought that onto myself. So I own that. It's extremely rare. I mean, we're talking 10 years,
Yeah.
13 years knowing the team. It happened once, and I can honestly say, um, my immaturity, my bad actions, whatever it was that overtook me that day caused me to be that way. So, and caused him to feel that he needed to do what he needed to do. So now I'm a little bit more careful. I definitely do more to protect myself. I sage my home, and then I Palo Santo. So the sage, gets rid of the negative, and the Palo Santo clears all of the energies that shouldn't be here. And then I also have, people that I go to for Reiki and
Mm.
for healing, and to ensure that, I do a lot of meditation, chakra aligning. So, all of those things to make sure that I am my best self and I am grounded. Because if we're not at our best selves and we're not prepared to take in the energy in a healthy way, then they don't know how to share it, right? So it's one of those things. Some people have tattoos that were placed on them by shaman and other, spiritual guides that they feel protect them. So everyone is different. I always have an evil eye and a cross on. The cross stems from growing up in a religious family, and the evil eye, I just believe strongly that it helps to ward off anything that I can. But everybody's different, and I think again, it's whatever makes you comfortable.
No, absolutely. No, it's important. And like you had mentioned, years ago, it was a lesson. Almost like it felt like you had to go through this lesson almost about what had happened, and it makes us stronger. It gets us like, oh, okay, it's not going to happen again. It seems like that's what I'm hearing as you're sort of sharing that. As we sort of wrap this up, is there anything that I didn't ask that you want to sort of make sure that you share, both of you ladies, and also anything about paranormal seekers? Anything you want to share about the group itself?
I will just say we really strive to ensure people are being very respectful in this industry. So we never condone trespassing or breaking into places. We will always ask for permission. And if it's a no, it's a no. Again, do your research. Don't just go in blindly or believe everything you hear. A lot of places, there's a lot of misconceptions about places. So if someone's really serious about being in this industry, you don't need to have all the fancy equipment. You can go in just with your phone and a pen of paper. But what is important is that you're doing the work beforehand with the research and you're documenting, and that you're not, again, sensationalizing. um Everyone wants to go into a place and see that ghost in front of them or the door slamming and things, and it's very rare that something like that takes place. Signs of the paranormal can often be very subtle, or you don't even realize until you get home. So I would say, because that's how we work, we would just really like for people to know we're not about faking it or anything along those lines. We really practice, like, we have built this reputation um on honesty and integrity, and that's how we will continue to move forward. And I think that's what makes us so successful, and what makes, when we go to a place, they usually talk, especially museums and pioneer villages, they're all connected somehow, and usually we get a couple of phone calls afterwards from new locations that are like, we heard you went to so and so, we'd love you to come to us. And I think that just really speaks of the team's dynamics and how we do things when we're out in the field. And so, anyone looking to get into this business, just bear in mind you're you're dealing with someone that used to be alive, and respect is key, and being honest and having dignity when you work and dignity for them as well when you're doing your work.
Doing the work. I hear you. Alison, was there anything else you wanted to say that I didn't ask, and or anything about paranormal seekers? Anything else that you wanted to add on top of Cass?
I think that my advice would be go in with an open mind and a welcoming heart.
Mm,
We believe, Rachel and I, it's been our tagline basically since I started. A haunting is history waiting to be told. It's not scary, it's not demonic, it's not satanic. Um, sure, maybe historically those things have happened. I feel confident in saying in my 10 years with the team that hasn't happened. But for me, it's all about, just being open. Don't go in there with any expectations other than to have fun and connect. Because when you have all of these expectations of this is going to happen and that's going to happen and you better do this and you better do that, like it's not going to work. If you attend a presentation, Rachel always says the dead are not performing circus monkeys, right? So it's true, right? We all have our good days and our bad days, and I think that that's key is knowing that and respecting that. So we went to a place, can't be named, many years ago, very, very, very prominent historical politician's home, and basically walked in there and heard a man who had been dead for almost 200 years speak his name. Can you imagine after 200 years hearing your voice and watching a crowd of people go, "Oh my gosh, we thought it was you that was still here," right? So those moments where we're giving somebody their voice back and their story back and confirmation that what people are seeing, feeling, hearing is real and true. For me, that's just so amazing. Like I just, they didn't have electricity, they didn't have REM pods with bright lights and things that go right. Like it just, that's not anything that they had. So when they engage with us and use that equipment, it's such an incredible feeling because they could be like, no way, I'll just stick with the Ovilus or I'll just stick with the spirit box because there was radio, coming when I passed away. But, that moment for me was extremely profound because the pride in his voice when he spoke of who he was and what he was known for, you could tell like he's been waiting to be heard for so many years. And that for me was like, and this is why we do this.
yeah, this is why we do this. Absolutely, and this is the reason why I do this as well too. To it's a platform where I bring amazing guests, and I become the student. I listen, and the last hour has just been amazing. I have so many other questions, but definitely that could be another podcast where I invite not only you two or maybe some other members of the team. Um, I'll add your social handles on our site. And I really want to take the time to say thank you for. I know this is all last minute, and everything happens for a divine reason. So, Kaz and Allison, thank you for being here and for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
One
And I
thing I'd
just
like
looked
to
it up.
say,
Yes, go
Oh,
ahead, Allison.
so
go ahead, Kaz.
I was just gonna say that documentary I was talking about that scared me was called Ghost Watch. It was
Oh,
on BBC in 1992. So
Ghost
there
Watch.
you go.
Okay, hey,
Ghost Watch.
that's amazing. Okay, Ghost Watch. All right, I'm gonna type that in. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead,
I was
Allison.
going to say, Banu, I think you should come to one of our public events because I think if you were to be able to see us in action and see how we roll, it would just bring together having another podcast with either us and or other members. But people when they come to those events, like we have groupies now, so they'll come to every single public investigation we have going on at every location. They bring their own equipment because they know that we're going to let them have at it. So it's definitely an opportunity that if you are interested, um, check us out. All of our public events are listed online. They're put on by the museums. We don't make any money. It's all to keep history alive, to keep those museums open. The government no longer funds them. So these investigations and the haunted, quote unquote, factor keeps these locations alive and keeps us able to continue to tell those stories and share with the world that, just because you're gone, you can't come back and you can't, have fun, right? So, but I think you would really enjoy seeing us in action.
No,
And
I'm going to take that on. No, absolutely. Thanks for the invite, and I'll definitely keep a tab on your website. I know all your, um, I was going to say workshops, but your paranormal activities where you invite them,
events.
they're always sold out. I was just on the website, sold out, sold out. So no, definitely, I definitely want to experience that. So no, thank you for the invite. Thank you, ladies.
I
Yeah, it was fun.
Actually, one thing, sorry, I just
Sure.
had a man pop into my head, and
What?
he said, if your listeners
Yeah,
and you, if
yeah.
anybody here has any suggestions for places that we could come out your way, to investigate, to explore, to be part of, let us know. Send us an email, because we're always looking. And then that way it's closer to home for you and your viewers, so we can, bring our A game to the Mississauga area and allow you guys to have, an experience on one of your old
Cherry Hill.
stomping
Have you guys?
grounds.
Sorry to cut you off, Allison. There's a story here in Mississauga about a house, Cherry Hill. Have you guys ever heard of that in Mississauga? So I don't know if you guys ever have been there and did any type of investigation, but growing up as a kid, everybody would talk about this place called Cherry Hill in Mississauga, haunted
Mhm.
or I don't know. So definitely, definitely, that sounds like fun. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Okay, well, thank you, and until next time. All right, ladies.